له يا سيد أنا رجعت على لبنان، أتمنى إنك ترجع كمان على لبنان.
قرار صادر من مجلس الجامعة تسمية حزب الله الإرهابي.
Good afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's top stories. Future Movement leader MP Saad Hariri says the Arab states would continue to back Lebanon despite a halt to billions of dollars of Saudi assistance to the army and security forces. March 14, Secretary General Faris Souaid calls for unity to salvage the country, acknowledging several disputes inside the coalition on its 11th anniversary. And protesters from the Youth movement seek to block several major roads that lead to Beirut, saying their move is aimed at rejecting the landfill that will be established by the state. Future Movement leader MP Saad Hariri says that Arab states will continue to back Lebanon despite a halt to billions of dollars of Saudi assistance to the army and security forces. Following a meeting with Army Chief General Jean Ahwaje and Defense Minister Samir Muqbil Inyazi, Hariri said, quote, "We are confident that our Arab brethren will not let go of us. The Saudi grant has been frozen, but we are exerting an effort to stress that we back the military. Saudi Arabia has cut $4 billion in aid to the army and security forces and has urged its citizens to leave Lebanon to put pressure on Hezbollah." Earlier this month, the Saudi-led bloc of 6 Gulf Arab nations considered Hezbollah a terrorist organization. Hariri said his visit to the Defense Ministry in Yerzeh was aimed at showing solidarity with the army and extending his condolences on the death of a soldier in the northeastern border town of Arsel last week. March 14, Secretary General Faris Souaid is calling for unity to salvage the country, acknowledging several disputes inside the coalition. He was quoted saying, "We are in dire need of unity at this stage as we have been accepting random settlements in return for preserving the country's stability." Souaid said in a news conference to mark March 14th 11th anniversary that he emphasized differences between the March 14 alliance are not only over presidential issues, saying they go back to several disputes that arose over the past few years. In his news conference, the March 14 official called on his fellow group leaders to locate a remedy by renewing the historical choices of independence uprising. He warned that any cracks that hit the country's unity would tear it down, underlining that the coalition will hold on to the Ta'if Accord. Lebanese Forces Chief Samir Jaja is admitting that the March 14 alliance is not at its best, but he's calling for resolving his problems on the 11th anniversary of the establishment. In a lengthy interview with Al Akhbar Daily published today, Jaja said, "We can only salvage Lebanon and establish a state through the plan of the March 14, which we hold on to." He stressed that they are witnessing organizational problems as well. Asked why Hariri preferred to have Marada leader MP Sulaiman Frangieh as president, Jaja said that his stance stems from his efforts to end the presidential vacuum swiftly. Jaja described his ties with Hariri as normal following their differences on candidacies, saying relations between them are not the way they should be as a result of the presidential candidates. Jaja reiterated that he is convinced that Hezbollah does not want presidential elections to be held. Protesters from the Youth movement seek to block several major roads that lead to Beirut, saying their move is aimed at rejecting the landfills that will establish by the state. Police pushed dozens of protesters to the side this morning of the highway in Dora and another area in Hazmiyeh to stop them from blocking the roads. Security forces arrested a woman in Dora after she sat on the asphalt in the middle of the road despite the heavy rain. In another area, demonstrators partly blocked the Khaldi highway, but it was reopened by police. Another activist described the government of Prime Minister Tamam Salam as the cabinet of rubbish, saying it has tasked Suklin with collecting the waste at a time when the company is facing charges of squandering funds. The Lebanese army says that 2 missiles found on a passenger flight from Lebanon to Europe were on their way to being returned to their manufacturer in the U.S. and did not contain any explosives. The military statement comes a day after Serbian media says that authorities are investigating reports that a cargo package bound for the U.S. containing 2 missiles with explosive warheads was found on a passenger flight from Lebanon to Serbia. The statement says that the military decided to return them to the U.S. manufacturer company as the deal states and according to the compiled legal and administrative regulation after the training ended. The package with the 2 guided armor-piercing missiles was discovered Saturday by a sniper dog after an Air Serbia flight from Beirut landed at Belgrade Airport. Talks to end Syria's civil war kick off in Geneva, but with the opposing sides unable to agree on an agenda that there was little confidence they could swiftly turn a temporary truce into a lasting peace deal. The long-awaited talks, which open on the eve of the 5th anniversary of the outbreak of the conflict, mark the latest bid to end the bloodshed that has killed more than 270,000 people and displaced millions. Hours before negotiations were due to start, what would be discussed was still unclear, and Western powers hit out at the regime for saying that removing Bashar al-Assad would be a red line. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry said the remarks from his Syrian counterpart were clearly trying to disrupt the process and send a message of deterrence. Russia is calling for all opposition factions to be represented at the Syrian peace talks in Geneva, aimed at ending the country's 5-year conflict now. Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov also hinted that an agreement could be reached to coordinate airstrikes between the Russian Air Force and the U.S.-led coalition to retake key rebel towns. He was quoted saying, "We are looking at how the delegations participating in this dialogue are being formed both by the government and the opposition." Lavrov said at a news conference after his talks with his Tunisian counterpart in Moscow that it was clear that they should include the whole spectrum of Syrian political forces. Otherwise, this cannot claim to be a representative forum. Lavrov also said in an interview broadcast on Russia's REN TV that Moscow was ready to coordinate with the United States to retake the rebel strongholds of Raqqa and Palmyra. Coming up next, the death toll in Ankara suicide blast in Turkey rises to 34 and 25 people wounded. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Future News here. More than 80% of Syria's children have been harmed by the country's conflict, including growing numbers of those who are forced to work, join armed groups, or marry young because of widening poverty. This is according to the UN's children agency, UNICEF. It said this on the 5th anniversary of the crisis. Peter Salama, the agency's regional chief, called on donor countries to make good on money pledges made at a Syrian aid conference in London last month. His agency, UNICEF, seeks $1.16 billion for 2016 to help Syria's children, including close to 3 million who are not in school. The agency has so far received only 6% of the amount it seeks for this year. Salama said it would make more sense to donors to provide the funds early on and enable more effective, longer-term planning. At least 34 people have been killed and 125 wounded after a suicide car bomb ripped through a busy square in central Ankara in Turkey. The explosion at 6:45 p.m. yesterday struck a bus stop near Kizilay Square, a bustling commercial area and local transport hub, reducing buses to charred husks and damaging nearby shops. Officials said the blast was caused by a vehicle packed with explosives, which the Interior Minister said was driven by one of 2 attackers who had deliberately targeted the bus stop. The attack is the third to strike Ankara in 5 months in an area close to the Prime Minister's office, Parliament and foreign embassies, as Turkey is grappling with twin security threats from Daesh and the Kurdish rebels. It is also the second major attack in the heart of Ankara in less than 1 month after 29 people were killed in a suicide bombing claimed by a dissident faction of the outlawed Kurdistan workers, also known as the PKK, on February 17th. Human Rights Watch is urging Egypt to annul the jail sentences handed to 4 Coptic Christian teenagers for contempt of Islam after they were seen in a video mocking Muslim prayers. In February, a court in the central province of Minya sentenced 3 teenagers to 5 years and a 4th to a juvenile detention center for an indefinite period. Defense lawyer Maher Naguib said at the time that the 4 had not intended to insult Islam in the video, but were instead mocking the beheadings carried out by Daesh. Mocking any religious group with a childish joke is not a crime, said HRW's Deputy Director for the Middle East Chief Nadim Khouri. He said instead of giving in to retrograde views on blasphemy, Egyptian authorities should protect freedom of expression. The video was filmed on a mobile phone in early 2015 when the 3 teenagers who were sentenced to 5 years were aged between 15 and 17. None of the 4 have been arrested yet. Following a day of campaigning in the U.S., Republican presidential frontrunner Donald Trump made his final stop in Boca Raton, Florida, 2 days before the state's primary contest, which is to take place tomorrow. First, he addressed the skirmishes that broke out between rival factions at his rally in Chicago on Friday. The event was swiftly canceled over security concerns. The real estate mogul has drawn fervent support as well as harsh criticism, including from within his own party, for his calls to build a wall along the U.S.-Mexico border and impose a temporary ban on Muslims entering the country.
We've been given really a lot of credit, and you know what? It was an amazing thing. And the other side actually said, this didn't work out too well, because all over the world they're talking about what took place, and they're talking about us, and they're talking about how well we handled it, and they're talking about the fact that nobody got hurt, nobody got injured, everything went smooth. It was a nice, easy breakup. So that's the way we have to have things go. And I love you people for being here tonight. Thank you. I'm a better person than the people I'm running against, that I can tell you. And I'm a better person than Hillary. Hillary is not good. So, thank you. That's beautiful. Beautiful. Actually, you know, little Marco, what we did. No, he's a little, L-I-D-D-L-E, little Marco. You know, you have to brand people a certain way when they're your opponents. Like Jeb Bush, we call him low energy. You know, the first time I saw Jeb, and I don't care talking badly about him, he spent $29 million on negative ads on me. $29 million. Can you believe it? He spent of other people's money, of his lobbyists and his special interest money. But you got to brand people. We branded. So we started off 17 people up on the stage. And what the hell did I know about this stuff? I've never done this before, right? So we start off with 17 people. Now we're down to 4. Bush was favored, then Walker was favored, then another one was favored. They're all favored. Now Trump is favored, okay? It's about time.
This marks the end of a bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Future Movement leader MP Saad Hariri says that Arab states will continue to back Lebanon despite a halt to billions of dollars of Saudi assistance to the army and security forces. March 14, Secretary General Fayez Said calls for unity to salvage the country, acknowledging several disputes inside the coalition on its 11th anniversary. And protesters from the Houston movement sought to block several major roads that led to Beirut, saying their move is aimed at rejecting the landfills that will be established by the state. Those are your Monday headlines live on Future Television. I'm Yumna Nelfa signing off. Have a good one.
بقول له يا سيد أنا رجعت على لبنان، أتمنى إنك ترجع كمان على لبنان.
قرار صادر من مجلس الجامعة تسمية حزب الله الإرهابي.